Adam Brian Dada here with another episode of the Low Reward Living video series. Let's get right into it. Good question yesterday was, do I have to live a low reward life? If you watched episode 1 and possibly episode 2 on the angel side of things, you'll know that I actually don't like using the term low reward when it comes to a specific behavior. I prefer the term lower reward because we're comparing that behavior to our other options that we have. In the first episodes, I spoke about going to get that taco and how easy it is to just have it delivered, or how easy it is to get in my car and drive 2 minutes away to go get it. The lower reward option is to possibly walk to get that taco, or maybe walk to the grocery store and buy a tortilla and some ground beef and some spices and make it up from scratch. Those are lower reward options. When you're done, you still feel good, but you don't feel as good as when you order delivery or hop in the car and go get junk food from a drive-thru. So it's not really about, should I live low reward all the time? The question I like people to ask themselves is, how can I live lower reward in my actions? And again, it isn't about all your actions being lower reward. It's about focusing on the ones where you default to a high reward behavior. If you've been watching the series up to now, you know that reward typically means the dopamine response in the brain. A high reward response is generally a high flood of dopamine into the brain, and a low reward response is generally a low flood of dopamine into the brain. Now, when we talk about lower rewards, we aren't talking about doing it across the board with all of our behaviors. You don't immediately need to start by cutting off all porn and all fast food and all deliveries and all gambling and all TV binging. That's not the goal here. The goal has always been for me to help people slowly find their way into feeling better about their lives. Less depression, less anxiety, less angst, less stress, even less self-hate. Many of those things stem from us constantly switching to high reward activities. We feel bad about our lives, we go eat some potato chips. We feel bad about our jobs, we go home and we binge 6 hours of Netflix. We feel bad that we never asked that girl out 20 years ago. We switch to some porn that reminds us of her. In every case, when we have a negative reaction that I found, a lot of it, the culpable party in it, is ourselves switching to these high dopamine activities. And when you condition your brain over and over and over again with high reward, easy, low price, no risk behaviors, you end up feeling crappy because the brain is hungry for these high dopamine activities. The more dopamine that you push into the brain, the more the brain is conditioned to want that much to get the same kind of feeling that maybe a lower reward individual doesn't have to do as much to feel. For a guy like me who's been practicing lower and lower rewards for decades now, for over a decade at least, what I get from going on a walk and literally stopping to smell the flowers is probably as much happiness in my brain as somebody who needs to play 12 hours of video games tonight. So I do much less, and yet I feel much better. And because my brain from these walks is flooding itself with very little bits of dopamine, when I come down from my behaviors, I don't feel depressed. I don't feel anxiety. I don't feel negativity or self-hatred. I don't feel like I missed opportunities. The lower reward lifestyle is about reconditioning ourselves, reprogramming our brains as individuals to feeling better with way less. And I can't tell you how much of a junk food addict I was when I was obese. I used to be a huge video game fan in my 20s, but I would go to arcades at that point because I'm old. I love to drive my car fast. I love to go to the casinos. I love to take in every form of live music and entertainment I could, go to sports games, watch teams on TV. And all of these things are going to be behaviors that we're going to talk about in the future. But today, none of them needs to be cut off at all. Anyone who says that you need to go on a dopamine fast is either a liar, inept, or trying to sell you something. And I've got nothing to sell you. There's nothing on this YouTube channel that says you got to buy this to get my assistance. Nothing at all. Now, when it comes to deciding what is it that I should cut first or lower the reward in first, for me it's pretty easy. The previous episode was about how to kill boredom and what's the secret to discovering motivation. When you're bored next, look and see what you do to distract yourself from boredom. What breaks your boredom? Is it turning on YouTube and watching videos? Is it playing your favorite band? Is it playing one of those crystal cube games on your phone? Look at the next time you're bored and see what your exact reaction is. What is the distraction that you go to in order to not feel bored anymore? And let's ignore what I said in the previous episode about boredom and finding motivation. Let's ignore that for now, because we actually want you to see what you switch to when you're bored. And that is the thing that you're going to want to lower your reward in. Whatever that is, I'd love to hear it in the comments below. You can leave me a comment and tell me, what was the thing that you switched to for boredom next? What is the distraction? And let me work on some 2-week self-studies to help guide you into a path of lowering the reward a little bit. The person who contacted me about this particular introductory video, asking if everything has to be lower reward, my response here is no, of course not. But if you can make one thing slightly lower reward, we can start seeing how your brain slowly adapts to deprogramming itself from all of these consumer habits, these hedonistic habits that are neuroengineered by marketers and advertisers and flavor companies and music video producers and cinematographers and all that. The little change you're going to make for that distraction that you switch to, the little change that you're going to make is going to be very little. The person who contacted me ended up telling me that their distraction was video games on their phone. And I asked them, what did you do with your old phone? And they said, I still have it, but I haven't turned it on in a year. I said, there's your solution. Delete the app from your phone, your real phone, your main phone, and install it on your old phone. And when you're done playing with it, turn it off, power it down, and put it in a drawer somewhere. And the next time you want to switch to that video game, go ahead and play it. Go ahead and play it, but now you got to go in that drawer and open it up. You got to remember that the phone's in that drawer. You got to turn it on and wait for it to boot up. And you've just delayed a little bit. You've delayed that high reward behavior. And guess what? As mentioned in previous episodes, the reward isn't playing the game. The reward is all the little rewards that add up to playing the game. Opening an app on your main phone right now takes no time. None. One aspect of reward is the amount of time it takes to get to that higher reward, that bigger goal. So by putting that game on your old cell phone, what you've just done is you've lowered the reward. Maybe not a huge amount, but definitely enough that over a 2-week period, you're going to see a difference. And some people might end up saying that they've cut their gameplay by 50%. I've seen some people be able to cut certain high reward behaviors entirely out by two weeks. And other people discovered there was no change. So maybe that behavior wasn't so bad for them. Each person, each individual is completely different in the amount of reward they get from the same activities. You might be able to go to a casino and throw dice on the craps table for 6 hours and not really feel that bad. Whereas another guy might go and right away that falling domino effect of habits leading to habits leading to habits happens to them. In a later episode, we're going to get into something I discovered in how high reward behaviors come in threes. It's not always the case, but I've seen it more often than not. And it was an ongoing joke on Reddit and in some of the Facebook groups back in the day, where we were finding all these crazy 3 high reward connections. If you know about those discussions, ignore them for now. We're just going to focus on the one distraction and just focus on the final distraction, which may be playing that video game. Don't focus on the other paths getting there until you want to figure out how you can lower your reward for that one distraction. And again, if you want to join in the discussion, what I'd like you to do the next time you're bored and the next time you want to curb that boredom by doing a high reward activity, post about it in the comments. Don't be shy. I'm here to help. I don't charge anything for my time. I'm a retired guy who walks around his neighborhood with no shirt on. But by spending some time communicating with me, it does help me create those 2-week self-studies that so many people over the years have found very effective, very efficacious for helping them curb their consumer behaviors and start focusing on the motivation behaviors that they want as a potential producer of content for other consumers to buy and you to make money on. Just remember, you don't need to live a completely low reward life. It is boring. I'm certain that anyone who lives my life would be absolutely bored out of their mind. I'm not. I've been conditioned over many years to like the little things, and it makes me really happy. But in your case, you just need to lower your rewards a little bit over a long period of time, little by little by little, and you'll start realizing how you can put together that motivation that you need to become successful. Motivation, when you actually grasp it, when you actually utilize it, when you actually turn boredom into success, that kind of motivation is completely what has healed me over many years. It's completely what has healed many of my proteges that I've mentored over many years. It has allowed us to shake off guilt, reduce depression greatly, reduce anxiety greatly. It's not a medical cure. For some of you, medicine might be the only solution, but it's a huge solution for me. And I'm hopeful that more people who learn to curb high reward behaviors by a little bit, step by step, will also be able to say, this has made a huge difference in my life. Motivation is the cure for daydreams, and daydreams are just another consumer behavior. If you have questions, please make sure that you hit me up in the comments below. My email is only for Patreon subscribers, which you're not allowed to do until you've been following me for a very long time and you've actually seen more money in your pocket, more savings in your budget. If you haven't made any money because of things that I've taught you, if you haven't saved a ton of money because of things I've taught you, do not subscribe to the Patreon. I don't want the money of random anonymous strangers. That's never been my goal. When you've made your first $200, you can join the Patreon, send me $2 for 1 month and cancel it until the next time you've gotten another $200. That's the rule. Thanks again for watching. Really excited to see the views going up because it means that people are starting to think about it and are starting to share it with your friends and are starting to adapt to this incredibly hedonistic, endless consumer world that we live in. And I'd like to see more of you be producers and be my peers and colleagues and friends as you walk down your lower reward living path. I'm Adam Brian Dada, and this is the Low Reward video series.